The Watchers, the 200 angels who broke God's law, long before the great flood washed the world clean. A rebellion took place that has been almost entirely scrubbed from our modern Bibles. Now, this isn't the story of Lucifer's famous fall from grace. This is about 200 angels who looked down upon the daughters of men and made a pact that would plunge the world into chaos. They were known as the Watchers, and this is the story of how they shattered God's most sacred law. Section 1. The premise: a sacred duty. In the early days of humanity, a special order of angel was given a single, solemn mission. They were called the Grigori, or the Watchers. According to the ancient and non-canonical book of Enoch, these 200 celestial beings were sent to earth with a strict rule: don't interfere. Their job was simply to watch over and protect the fledgling human race. They were silent guardians, meant to witness the growth of God's creation from afar, forever forbidden from crossing the line between their spiritual world and our physical one. And for a while, they did just that. From their unseen perch, they watched humanity multiply, build civilizations, and they saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and captivating. But watching slowly turned into wanting. A dangerous curiosity began to bubble up among them, a desire not just to observe humanity, but to be a part of it. This longing, born from lust, would soon ignite a rebellion that would scar creation itself. Section 2. The transgression, the pact on Mount Hermon. The ringleader of this rebellion was an angel named Samyaza. He saw the beauty of mortal women and was consumed with the desire to take them as his own. But he was afraid to make a move by himself. As the book of Enoch tells it, Samyaza gathered the other Watchers and confessed his temptation, but also his fear, saying he was worried they wouldn't go along with it, and that he alone would have to pay the penalty of a great sin. He shouldn't have worried. The other angels didn't talk him out of it. Instead, they told him it's what they wanted too. In one voice, they declared, "Let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing." And so the pact was sealed. In a breathtaking act of defiance, 200 Watchers descended and gathered on the summit of Mount Hermon. The location itself became infamous. The book of Enoch directly links the name Hermon to the Hebrew word for curse, because it was on that very peak they bound themselves with an oath that none would break. Together they abandoned their sacred duty and their home in heaven, all to satisfy a forbidden desire. Section 3. The forbidden knowledge, the poisoned gifts. But this rebellion went far beyond taking human wives. To secure their place in the mortal world, the Watchers began sharing secrets that were never meant for human ears. This was the second part of their crime, corrupting humanity with forbidden knowledge. Samyaza, their leader, taught the arts of sorcery, spells, enchantments, and how to use roots and herbs for magical potions. Another angel, Azazel, would become legendary for the chaos he unleashed. Azazel taught men how to forge swords, knives, and shields, introducing the very tools of war to the world. His lessons didn't stop there. Azazel also taught vanity. He showed people how to make jewelry and ornaments, how to use precious stones, and the art of cosmetics, using antimony to beautify the eyelids. These gifts may have seemed like progress, but they fueled pride, violence, and greed, cutting humanity off from its humble connection to God. Other Watchers offered up their own secrets. Barakajal taught astrology, Kokabel taught the constellations, and Sariel taught the course of the moon. Suddenly, humanity had access to sciences it had no wisdom to handle. This wasn't a gift. It was a poison that sent humanity spiraling toward corruption and self-destruction. This story, preserved in texts like the Book of Enoch, gives a powerful and startling explanation for the ancient origins of evil. It's a narrative that was intentionally left out of most mainstream religious texts, yet its influence is undeniable. If you find these hidden histories as fascinating as we do, go ahead and support the channel by hitting that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration of forgotten lore. Section 4. The Consequences, the Birth of the Nephilim. The union between angels and mortal women had a terrifying result, a new race of beings known as the Nephilim. The name itself comes from a Hebrew root word for to fall, and they're often called the fallen ones. The Book of Enoch describes them as giants of staggering size. While some ancient texts use hyperbolic language, most scholars today believe these descriptions were symbolic of their overwhelming power and destructive nature, not a literal measurement. These were not gentle giants. The Nephilim were born with an endless hunger and a violent spirit. They devoured everything humanity produced, all the food, goods, and livestock. When the world could no longer feed their appetite, they turned on people, consuming them and drinking their blood. From there they began to destroy the natural world, sinning against birds, beasts, and fish. Finally, in a cannibalistic frenzy, the giants turned on each other, and the earth was filled with violence. The world fell into total anarchy. The forbidden knowledge from Azazel had armed humanity for war, while the monstrous children of the Watchers were tearing creation, limb from limb. The planet, once orderly and peaceful, was now a hellscape of violence and despair. Section 5. The Cry to Heaven. As the world burned, the screams of the innocent and oppressed rose to the heavens. The souls of those killed in the wars and devoured by the giants cried out for justice. Crushed under the weight of this angelic rebellion, humanity could do nothing but look to the sky for help. Their pleas were heard. The archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down and saw the absolute lawlessness that had swallowed the world. They saw the corruption taught by Azazel and the devastation left by the Nephilim. They carried humanity's cries directly to the throne of God, reporting the chaos the Watchers had caused. They said, "The whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin." The time for patience was over. The time for judgment had arrived. Section 6. The Judgment, the Punishment of the Fallen. God's response was as swift as it was severe, and it came in two parts. First, the Nephilim had to be wiped out. The Archangel Gabriel was sent to pit the giants against each other, turning their own violent nature into the weapon of their extinction. They slaughtered one another in a massive civil war. Any who remained, along with the corrupted humans, would be cleansed in the Great Flood, the same flood Noah was building an ark for. Second, the Watchers had to pay for their crimes. The Archangel Raphael was ordered to bind Azazel, throwing him into a pit of jagged rocks in a desert called Dudael. He was bound hand and foot and covered in darkness, where he would remain until the final judgment, when he'll be cast into a lake of fire. As for Samyaza and the other 199 rebels, the Archangel Michael rounded them up. As part of their punishment, they were forced to watch the slaughter of their own giant children. Then they were bound in chains and imprisoned in the deepest abysses of the earth, where they remain to this day, awaiting their final eternal damnation. They begged for mercy, even sending the prophet Enoch to plead their case, but their petition was denied. There would be no peace for them. Conclusion. The story of the Watchers is a chilling tale of what happens when desire turns into transgression. It tells of celestial beings who gave up everything for mortal pleasure, unleashing knowledge humanity wasn't ready for and spawning a race of monsters that nearly broke the world. The rebellion is presented as the core reason for the Great Flood, a divine reset button needed to wash the earth of their corruption. Even though the book of Enoch isn't in most Bibles, its fingerprints are all over later religious ideas about fallen angels, demons, and where evil truly comes from. It gives a dark and incredibly detailed backstory to those few cryptic verses in Genesis 6 that mention the sons of God and the Nephilim. The legend of the Watchers is a powerful warning about chasing forbidden knowledge and the price of defying divine order. So what do you think? Is all knowledge a gift, or are some secrets too dangerous to ever be learned? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into history's forgotten corners.